Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. When you mute yourself to let the trailer run for your program, always remember to unmute yourself. Ding, 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 ding. Anyway, I am your host for tonight, Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can also find me at NewsNewsNeed on Twitter. You can also find me at CBCaps on Instagram. In the new year with that little festive jaunt is the man behind the soundboards, our man in Brooklyn, Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody? Merry New Year!
Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at?
Oh, geez, first one of those of the year. You know what? And we do these like
time.
Yeah, no, right. I don't know how many of these we do per year, which I guess you should actually keep track of it, but sometimes it slides. But well, I don't know why I'm saying that, but basically it's like, hey, there's gonna be a whole another new year of that and whatever other things got coming to us in the future. Also not with us tonight, PCN_Dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com, and his umbrella sites therein. Just a little which way, this way, there we go. And also the Osiris, and hopefully someday this year, there at some point all this mess behind me is going to get cleared up. But anyway, not with us tonight is the Osiris that is ish. One, Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, CB Cron on Twitter, The Click Nation on Twitter, and theclicknation.com. That's the KLIQT. I almost had it. The KLIQNATION.com. And also over at Comic Book Resource was over there writing his face off. Indeed. And you can find this here program on the Cold Slither Podcast Network, where you can find this and a bunch of other podcasts. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
Before, and I was like, you screwing this up. Hey, you got to get one in for the year, right? Which, hey, this is me, so you know where this is going to go. You can also find, so what?
Said it's all good.
You can also find this here podcast on your podcast perusal place of choice, and there's not another P that I could have put in that place, sadly. Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the Cold Slither Podcast SoundCloud page. And we're beginning like we do.
I was about to say, and don't forget that you can watch this show live or on YouTube on the Click Nation's YouTube page, and you can see. You can keep track of the respective messes behind myself and Roddykat as we endeavor to clean up over the course of the year 2020.
Yeah. That's one way or another that's going to happen, and sadly, I know which way it looks like it's going to happen. Regardless, there are changes to be coming forthwith, somewhat. Hopefully for the better for everyone. By the way, and if we didn't say so before, which I know we did, Happy New Year. I hope you are starting off this new year healthy and happy and prosperous and BS free from all the craziness that's going on in the world. And on social media, because there's a lot of BS there also. But regardless,
beef jerky time.
It is beef jerky time. Yes, we should all go to the pavilion and have great fun.
Yes.
But in order for us to get to the pavilion, we have to get on the train. We have to find I forgot dude's name. And hopefully Jamie Lee Curtis in a very villain pair of lederhosen or something. I don't know.
That's right.
Now that we've exhausted all of the trading places bits around that, you should go watch that movie. It's great. We're going to get into the first book of the year, much less first book of the week. And that would be X-Men number 4. So you want to start?
Alrighty. So X-Men number 4 has the Krakoan delegation at representing Krakoa at Davos at the World Economic Forum. This is a terrifyingly realistic real world tie-in for something that would happen to a brand new country that happens to have a lot of economic clout. And what else happens in this issue is that there is, spoiler alert, yet another attempt upon the life of Professor X and or the entire Krakoan delegation.
Yes, but this time they're not caught with their pants down. In fact, they are quite handily well aware of the situation and handle their hand as all of this is going on. So, which is also a weird thing to see because even coming into Hoxpox and all of the mutants who we formerly knew as bad guys, are pretty much just here and they're serving their purpose. We have two such ones, Magneto and Apocalypse.
Three.
Well, yeah. I was counting Gorgon less to a degree because he's basically he's basically the bodyguard in this situation. But yes.
I gotcha. I was about to say but he does count as a former bad guy because
this is also true. But I meant like big.
I see.
As a part of the delegation going in and having Scott and Gorgon, basically being the two-man bodyguard. Which I guess if you got that crew, you don't really need that many. Who else you need? I don't know too much about Gorgon. Or at least this version of, or at least this Gorgon, because the other Gorgon I know about is the Inhuman, but that's a whole nother story.
Right.
But yeah, apparently from what little I've read, he's well worth his weight in what happened. So I don't think I've ever read any stories with him.
Right. For people looking for more information on this version of Gorgon, please look up the Secret Warriors.
Wait.
Secret Warriors book. He shows up he definitely shows up in spades in that book.
Okay, I read that. I don't remember.
He's there.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. The Secret Warriors, the entire, the Hickman limited series.
Yeah, I totally read that, but I don't remember. So
he's there. He shows up, I believe, in lots of Wolverine comics as well. I believe he is in I want to say he's in the series where Wolverine is turned against Shield and turned against the Marvel Universe.
Hickman's Secret Warriors. I did not read that whole thing. Now that I think about it.
Okay.
I did. I read a couple of issues, but didn't read the whole thing. I just remember that. So yeah, that's
gotcha.
I don't know.
Gotcha. So yeah, he definitely makes an appearance in those Wolverine issues where Wolverine is turned against Shield. I can't believe how far back those books go now. It's actually, it's funny that something like that seems so new to me, but that is circa, believe it or not, it's circa like early 2000s, mid 2000s.
Right.
We're talking like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things where we'll find out later. There's an anniversary, or there was an anniversary of another comic event that we will talk about later on. And the new doesn't seem that long ago, but yet it was. But yeah, but as far as this issue is concerned, like, you know what? This is kind of the stuff that movies are made out of, because it's like, okay, on one hand you have the delegation of Charles Xavier and Magneto and Apocalypse basically, in front of it, everything and talking, while on the other side of it, you basically have Scott and Gorgon just taking down the hit squad,
right?
Without everybody unaware, with the exception of the mutant population on hand. So it's like, yeah, it kind of played out, or at least like it feels like it plays off like a movie. But at the same time, I could kind of see, like you said, that there's absolutely a real world component to this. But I could also see if by some chance some new country happens to pop up and make itself into an economic powerhouse, such as Krakoa has, something like this ends up happening.
Right. I mean, it's a pretty incredible scenario because not only is Krakoa an incredible economic powerhouse, but given the concentration of superpowered beings, it's also a military powerhouse to a very real extent. So uh, it's it's pretty stirring to see the mutants fight back and defend themselves on foreign turf, and to see these characters really, especially Gorgon, to see these characters really assert themselves, not in some sort of villainous take over the world quest, but in something more justifiable, a more self-defense,
Right.
a traditional X-Men style story. And to see Magneto in there, to see Apocalypse in there, to see Apocalypse basically say, "You are not worthy of speaking my other names. You can speak my supervillain code name."
Right.
And and to see Gorgon basically leave witnesses to his destruction,
Yeah, he's basically saying, "I did this to you."
essentially.
So, which maybe I can't remember if this actually happened. I don't believe they said anything about killing anyone. Matter of fact, yeah, they did. There's that whole "don't kill humans" thing that they got
Exactly. I
going on.
would say that's one of the things that they swear to when they become citizens of Krakoa.
Right, but hurting them real bad, not a problem. But I think somebody's already went afoul of that, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, right. I mean, ultimately in this issue, we also see something very Star Wars: loss of hands and limbs.
Yeah,
So
very much so. But overall, it was a pretty good issue. For I don't know if you leave off one side of the coin, some would suggest it's less more and more exposition, not exposition, but more more talky, which I
I
know
think
some
more
people,
explanation. I
yeah,
think we also get a little bit of a view inside where Charles Xavier is now. He
yeah,
comes up a little less cultish, which is what we were all sort of concerned with in the pages of Hoxpox, House of X, Powers of 10.
but also his rethinking of his stance of which we've already kind of seen during Hoxpox, or at least him coming to it during to the end of Hoxpox anyway, and coming into the Donovan stuff, like his new thoughts on his his thoughts on coexistence of mutants and humans. We
Right.
kind of a little bit more on that.
Right. It's an evolving viewpoint. It's an evolving dream for Charles Xavier. It's nowhere near what we thought it was in the 80s or 70s. It's gotten to this point, and his dream has evolved, and it's interesting to see him describe it, expand upon how he views mutant and humankind coexisting. So I think this is a pretty important issue for people to pick up. I thought it was good enough to put up as a potential click of the week.
I dare say it's a more realistic view as opposed to his former thoughts on the matter. Especially given the climate, well, in this universe, much less in reality. But yeah, or therein. But yeah, I would agree this is definitely a potential click of the week. But I was saying earlier, like if probably half the book was cut off, uh, you know, I don't know. I would imagine some folks wouldn't take it as as well, because people don't necessarily like books that just talk.
Mm.
There must be action in some people's purview and at all times, and doesn't necessarily always need to be the case, and definitely doesn't always happen in Hickman books, as we have found during his Avengers run, and in some cases of Hoxpox.
Understood.
Um,
Also, I would add that at this World Economic Forum meeting, Hickman comes up with a dinner menu that it was very interesting to read. And I wonder what Colbert sauce is. Is that real? I did not have a chance to look at it.
I meant to look that up too, because I was like, okay, everything on this menu seems kind of legit. And I saw that, I was like, wait, is he talking like Stephen Colbert? What we're talking about here?
Could be. I did not bother to look, but it definitely seems.
So a quick research is apparently that is a real sauce.
No kidding.
Named after the chief minister of King Louis XIV. The sauce combines meat glaze, butter, wine, shallots, tarragon, and lemon juice.
Nice.
With grilled meats, which they did have, and game.
Okay.
So the Colbert rapport, the Colbert is not only a rapport, it is a sauce.
It's a sauce. There you go.
And the more you know. Haha.
Also, very quickly, the airship that the delegation takes to Switzerland has Star Wars style skid landing gear, not wheels. That's only become and I literally just flipped to this, and I remember it sticking out to me because, and we can move on after this to our next book, but given the glut of Star Wars stuff that I have digested and viewed over the last month and a half to 2 months,
you can't help but notice. Yeah.
Exactly. I can't help but notice that the different types of landing gear on different types of spacecraft and aircraft in the Star Wars universe, and seeing them pop up in other forms of media, it's pretty interesting to see. So
I mean, granted, this not even those are not new to this world or any, come to think of it. Now to think about it, because even the blades of that, or I should say at the very least in a sci-fi sense, that whole ship is something that's kind of out of, you will see definitely in a sci-fi movie in some way, shape, or form.
But it's definitely more
some video game. But
yeah, exactly, I was about to say it's definitely Halo-ish, but it definitely has a real world analog in the Osprey.
Right.
So, but yeah, I just got a kick out of the landing gear because I just, I literally saw an episode of Clone Wars where I believe it was Hera doing a crash landing of a Y-wing on the skid landing gear.
Or
no, Rebels, I mean.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
My apologies.
Sorry, that's great. Right before the show, I did a reverse of that. So
exactly.
So
it had to be Rebels because they were there. It was spoiler alert for Rebels, folks. It was one of the episodes where they still had command of the carrier.
Right. Which was early on.
Relatively, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So that being the case, X-Men 4, I think we've gotten that one in the books. So it's a good issue.
What's next?
Well, since we're already on the X corner, we might as well go to Marauders number 5.
Sure.
I don't know. I continue to enjoy Marauders. It's probably slightly lighter of the X books so far.
Sure.
Cade is still trying to get Bishop as the Red Bishop, which that's a little on the nose, as he says, because she wants somebody kind of on her team, so he's not trying to have it, but they're on this mission to something that actually, I'm trying to remember when that even came up. Was it the first issue?
What's that?
Marauders? I can't remember. Because the mission they're on came up somewhere else, where the diplomat's husband supposedly gone through the Krakoan gate and disappeared. But what we found out in this issue, that wasn't necessarily the case.
Oh, it was a big fat lie.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, not only was it a lie, but it was a lie to spur on more mutant fear mongering. Which, I guess, speaking of mongering, to someone who shows up at the end of the book who knows all about mongering.
Sure.
Weirdly enough. Which that was I'm like, wow, where did dig that cat from? But anyway, we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, the whole Christian Frost thing, I'm like, okay.
I'm like, who? Wait a
Yeah,
second. Wait a
exactly.
second. Wait a second.
Who?
I was like, wait, is he another clone of Emma? Well, no, actually, no. That is her actual brother.
Right. I had to
I
look
do
that
remember,
up.
and I do remember his name coming up somewhere. But I don't remember where. Weirdly enough, because it's like, okay, I know he's a Frost for sure, but where do I know him from and why? But it turns out that none of that really matters in this case. But yeah, that is there's a little fun bit of research sometimes we end up having to do because, or I should say, reminders. Because there are a lot of books, and sometimes it's not our corner that we have to do a little bit of research on, if that were the case, or we don't even remember.
Right.
So,
Because we read so much, it's just slipped through our memory. So,
yeah.
just very quickly, I wanted to touch on a couple of things before we wrap up on the plot of the book. Yeah, Christian Frost making an appearance kind of threw me a little bit. Although the first the cold intro to the book, I guess, has Iceman and Christian Frost doing something I always thought would be beneficial for at least the 616 in terms of climate change. I'll leave it at that.
Yes. I mean, Iceman being an omega level mutant and all, and can affect some change that savvy.
Right. Even if it's just temporary, even if it's just a temporary stopgap.
Right.
There's a bit in here about Kitty's lack of Krakoan language knowledge that I believe was touched on in last week's books.
They solved that part of it, at least, with her lack of knowledge, because basically once you go through the gate, you get the Krakoan language downloaded into your memory, which Kate can't do.
Right.
So she had to get it.
She just needs
apparently she tried it herself, and she got started. Learning a new language is hard, but Emma helps her out.
I mean, I still need the cipher. I know you said that you can sort of remember it, but
there's a couple of letters I can kind of pick out once I see them. Yeah, so there's a couple of them I can kind of pick out, and it's like, and it starts to get a little easier to cipher out stuff. But yeah, right. Which I forgot to do this week. Now that I think about it, but hey, we got many miles to go before this language sleeps.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and that whole Kate and Emma Frost kind of buddy thing, that's kind of is weird to me.
It's it's interesting.
That buddy as far as Emma, because Emma is not buddies to anyone, but at the same time she is more civil nowadays with a lot of people, especially Jean, weirdly enough. But with her and Kate, and that whole situation with, matter of fact, Kate even says like she kind of wonders what would have happened if she had joined under Emma as opposed to the professor, which I'm kind of glad she didn't actually, but that's a what if waiting to happen.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, like I said, this Marauders continues to, I enjoy it because it's continuing to be, while still in the actual realm of things, still kind of light. You got Pyro and Iceman over there doing their thing. Pyro still being an idiot, but a well-meaning idiot. I totally couldn't remember what song he was singing at the festival, even though I knew the words he was singing.
What song? Hold on. Now you got me scrolling through.
Which and I'm still drawing a blank now, but
and I'm scrolling. Hold on. At the beginning of the book?
No, I think it's in the middle when they're in mission.
Oh, that Pyro is singing.
Yeah.
Scrolling. Forgive me, ladies and gentlemen, for scrolling through to figure out what Roddykat is referring to.
It's an old 80s song, if you know.
Yeah, it's definitely an 80s song.
Yeah.
Definitely an 80s song. I must have scrolled past it because I'm at the introduction of this the formerly human child members of the Hellfire Club. They've formed a new group.
Oh yeah, that's the part. Yeah, that's the part we didn't talk about. They are powerless.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're just super rich.
Yeah. Because at first I was like, wait, what's Bobby doing there? And then it's like, that's not Bobby, and that's not who there was. And then I was like, oh no, it's the old Hellfire Club, or the remnants of, I guess you could say.
Right. The little kids. I mean, they were introduced within the last like 5 or 6 years, I believe.
Right.
So I can't find. I remember seeing this this bit about the 80s song.
Mm-hmm.
I can't seem to, God forbid I have my physical comics this week. I just haven't had a chance to go. I'm probably going to go tomorrow to pick up my physical books for this week.
Mm-hmm.
But
or maybe or
are you misremembering it from the last issue?
I was about to say maybe I am. I might be, because I did read both of them back to back. So that's
Gotcha. I mean, I only read it very recently as well. Maybe not back to back with this, but definitely very recently. So
yeah, I think that was last issue. So forgive me for that one. But regardless, at the end of this issue, a couple of folks come in the form of Hate Monger and the Executioner.
Right. I needed a little bit of reference, or I needed to do a little bit of research because I couldn't remember what Hate Monger looked like. Executioner was easy because it's an X book. It's a quick reference. I needed to actually figure out who that was.
Well, I had to go the other way around with it because the Executioner I know is from Thor.
Oh, right. I got you.
So I'm like, okay, who is this chap? But yeah, Hate Monger. I'm like, okay, I remember this dude. Of course, there would be one still around. Why would there be? So yeah, so our X folks will have to deal with them. I think some sans power. Now that I think about it, because I believe that some of them did end up losing power during the course of this issue temporarily. But anyway, that is Marauders number 5.
All right.
Pick one if you dare.
How about we talk about Miles Morales? We move into the Spider Corner.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Miles Morales, Spider-Man number 14. Let me not completely botch the name of this book because it is important to keep it distinct from the other Spider-Man book. But what's funny about this issue,
because yes, there is a Spider-Man book that is not that is as a miniseries that is J.J. Abrams. Well, that's confusing enough as it is.
Right. So one of the things I got a kick out of in this issue was the direct follow-up to the events of last issue, where Miles's baby sister is, I guess she came out with a full head of hair.
It happens, but yeah,
that's pretty cool. She's got a Spider-Ham plush doll, which is funny.
He's adorable, little Billy Morales. But clearly they're not going with JD's last name, thankfully. But
righto. And one thing that we get to is a quick follow-up on some of the events of the past several issues with Miles having run out of web fluid. And so the first note I wrote down. Go ahead.
So I was about to say, so I agree with your note, because I thought the exact same thing when I read that part. I'm like, why does Miles not know how to do it? But at the same time, Genki's doing it. I realize that.
But he needs to learn.
True, but he still needs to be able to get the stuff, which is part of the problem. Because
right, that is definitely part of the problem.
Yeah, so because the part of the problem is they run out of money to make the stuff, and it's expensive. And I thought about it. Also thought of myself. It was like, well, wait, why? How is Peter? I know Peter's working at the very well. No, he's not working, but
he is working.
Peter has money.
Yay!
He went back to school. He's working for who?
He's a teacher assistant for Connors.
Is he still doing that?
Yeah.
Okay, he went because he went back to school, so I guess he's doing that in addition to. Okay, yeah. That part that wasn't. I don't remember that part.
Yeah, he's I guess because you're not reading Spider-Gwen, he pops up as because she's a student there now as well at ESU.
Okay, yeah,
he shows up as a teacher or a teacher's assistant. He's definitely not professor, but TAs get paid a little bit, I think.
Sure, but well, Yeah, but regardless, well, and I guess, but see, and the difference is still is, let us assume that he also probably has a easier access to the chemicals he would need in that capacity.
Right.
As-
And obviously, right. And obviously, we all have to remember, before we spend too long on this point, we all have to remember that there have been several points in Peter Parker's career where he was unable to make his own web fluid because he did not have access to the requisite ingredients. Although my point still stands, Miles needs to learn.
I know, I'm totally in
Don't
agreement.
rely on Gunky.
And he's he's smart enough to know how to do it. Like, yeah, that is not his purview in the scientific field, but it's still,
He needs to learn. It's important because
I like, and I thought the exact same thing when I was like, why does Miles not even know this? Before coming to the realization of everything else involved.
Yep.
So, or at the very least, I'm like, yo, Pete.
I was about to say, he's still young. That's the thing. He's still got plenty of time to learn, but he definitely needs to pick that particular skill up soon. So
right. Like, you know how to fix your web shooters, know how to make more web fluid, and basically be able to fix your tech. What little tech he has, because everything else is biological still. Which the running up walls and sneakers thing, that's still hiding in the world. Why? How? Anyway, that's a whole different story. To continue this story, he's still after the goblin drug that is hitting the streets, and he's got a lead on that finally, and the whole ultimatum thing, who's behind the drugs. So he's finally got a lead on that hasn't been exploded or gotten rid of before he has a chance to get to it. So now I think he has a sample of the drug. And he's also catching wind of, I guess, what is also going on in the other parts of the Spider-Verse in New York, specifically with the mayor and his potential affiliation with the criminal element.
Right. It's just a small tie-in to the events of not even the Spider Corner, but definitely the New York City corner of the Marvel Universe. So,
right. Well, I say Spider Corner because you see it more here than in the other books that are around.
Oh yeah, exactly. I guess Daredevil counts. So,
well, yeah, it is also, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, as you mentioned, it's interesting to see it finally come up. I guess Miles really hasn't had much opportunity to interact with the cops in this regard, and definitely have a chance to speak to some of these agents of Ultimatum now. So it's definitely an interesting development for him to learn about. The next thing that we also learn about is Miles is on thin ice at the Brooklyn Visions Academy in terms of his academic and attendance, more specifically his attendance requirements.
And possibly more ways than one, if the end of this book is an indication.
Right. Essentially, the journal that he has started keeping as a result of his, I believe it's his English class, or definitely one of his classes.
I think it was a writing class of sort, because that his teacher he was talking to is either his writing professor or something. I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Right. Some sort of English or literature class, and as a result of that, he has been expressing his innermost thoughts on both of his lives.
Yes.
Both his costumed life and his civilian life in his journal. And
but you had to know was going to come up.
Right.
Not great was going to come out of that situation.
Right. And minor spoilers, the journal falls into some pretty bad hands.
Yes. Not ultimatums, but just as bad.
Yeah, they're pretty bad.
Yeah. So we will see. I suspect, though, we will probably see is like, hey, he has the book, but may not have looked into it. But then we'll come across later on, sometime or down the line, so no, he actually did look into it. He lied or something. I don't know, because I feel like that guy is just rife for turning into a minor supervillain, or at least a thorn in the side of which he already was for Miles. So,
I mean, if we're going to go full Breakfast Club, he's definitely the detention guy.
Oh, or Ferris Bueller, one of the two, yeah. Exactly. The more direct reference.
Exactly.
So, which I'm sure there are people out there watch some films. People, good gracious. I'm just kind of joking, sort of, but no, really, those are good films, regardless of how dated they are. So yeah, that is pretty much it for old Miles on this one, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, next issue with that development on the journal. Which again, you could see, quote unquote, the writing on the wall on that one.
Mm-hmm.
And for God's sakes, Miles learned how to make web fluid. At the very least, learn. Like, yeah, I know the chemicals are one part of it, but still.
Right. Access is one thing, but knowing how to make it is the important part.
Which I feel like, see, this would be a time, although it would possibly slightly uncharacteristic. Like he's a smart dude, and he is pretty much, he's pretty intelligent. Chemistry would probably be slightly out of his purview, I believe, because I can't remember what his
strength is.
Right? Yes, the strength is, but I think it is maybe a little bit more on the tech side than not. Which that doesn't mean that it still couldn't, a little side of the chemical thing. But that's neither here nor there. Next up, let's do
what's next?
Hawkeye Freefall, and then we'll maybe do rapid fire stuff.
Sure. Or
we could do Star Wars, actually.
Oh, you want to do Star Wars?
Let's do Star Wars. Yeah.
Star Wars.
Especially with recent events, that is a big book. Hey, by the way, folks, if you haven't already heard it, go back into the feed one episode. There is a treasury edition with Agent 70 and myself, where we go over Star Wars Rise of the not that one, Rise of the Skywalker. We pretty much chop it all. We get a whole lot of stuff out. I think we may have actually still missed some stuff that we even talked about before the show.
Of course.
But
we didn't want to be on for like 5 hours. That's the thing.
Well, there is that. Right. And we got into so much conversation about it that, there are some things that even slid, that even stuff we said we were going to talk about beforehand. But regardless, it's a good conversation. You should be surprised it's a little lengthy, but at least it's a little lengthy on one target as opposed to different ones like we normally do.
Right. And ultimately, we got it out in time to be part of the zeitgeist, to be part of the conversation.
Sure.
We definitely did not wait 2 weeks. We waited only one. So spoilers galore for those of you who are looking into viewing and or listening to our Treasury edition on Rise of Skywalker.
Right.
So make sure you're caught up.
You know better not to listen to something that's directly talking about something, whether we said spoilers or not.
Right, because listen, we are all up to date, except for Roddy not being up to date on Rebels, but we are all basically up to date. So,
yeah, exactly. But more on that a little bit later. So yeah, Star Wars #1. So this is taking place after. So a little before I even get to that, there was a book that I don't think we got to talk about called Star Wars Ascendant Rising. Oh wait,
Empire Ascendant.
Empire Ascendant. That came out 2 weeks ago. And it is basically about 3 or 4 little short stories that are basically, unlike Incoming, well, just like Incoming, are basically teasing stuff that is coming ahead, with the exception, I think, one story maybe. But regardless, teasing books that are coming ahead. One of which happens to be this week's Star Wars #1. The one of the others is the Darth Vader book that is coming back out, and there was a couple other things. But regardless, the thing we're talking about here is the Star Wars book. Now, granted, that book, or that story in that book, is set before the events of Empire Strikes Back, and it has to do with the building of the base at Hoth, and the two main characters in it are Poe Dameron's parents, and that's pretty much how that goes. If you want to go check that out, go for it. In Star Wars #1, we flash forward a little bit further directly after the events of Empire Strikes Back, where Luke's got his hand cut off. He knows Vader's
We're definitely dealing with that very scene at the beginning of this book.
right, and he's
Almost a direct aftermath of that very scene.
right. So Han's encased in carbonite and on his way to Tatooine to be given the Jabba. Lando's with the Resistance now. All of that. The Dark Middle chapter. So Lando's trying to say, hey, we need to go because we can't catch Han because he's too far. But we know where he's going, so we can deal with that, and you know how that plays out.
Well, before you move on, hold on to that thought. I wanted to mention that Lando actually says, and it took me aback for a second, that we could have caught Han if we didn't turn back to get this guy.
Right.
And Leia says, well, this guy is the one that destroyed the first Death Star. And it all, and I can only imagine this conversation actually happening, because this was, and there's a reason why I just wanted to just have you just hold on to your thought.
That's a good point.
Because I feel like this series, more so than the previous Star Wars series, is the series I've probably been looking forward to the most, because it seems to fill in a lot of the story gaps that I had always thought about growing up. What happened? How did we get from the end of Empire to the beginning of Return of the Jedi? And
the first one kind of did that, but I get what you're saying. Like the more pertinent stuff to, especially after the revelations.
Right.
That's right.
Exactly. I was not as interested as a kid in how we got from 1 to 2, or from 4 to 5. Let's put it that way. So I was not nearly as interested, and I read it. And bear in mind, I definitely held on to my pull list, my pull of the previous version, the previous volume of Star Wars until issue 50 something. So I definitely stayed on a long time, and I definitely stayed on to see a lot of the developments of the characters that they were introducing. But I think that several people may jump onto this series because this is where I think a lot of questions that come up in Jedi may or may not be answered or addressed. How we get from A to B, specifically lightsaber, specifically, a couple of things.
I thought I legit thought they were going to try to answer that, especially with the first couple of pages. I thought they were going to try to answer that like right off the bat, and like, really, that's what happened to the hand. But that's not the case. It's just flashing back to what happened to it and we've seen it fall. So I'm kind of wondering if they are actually going to answer that.
I hope so.
I feel like they would kind of have to, but at the same time, they don't necessarily, because that could have been picked up anywhere. It doesn't necessarily mean they could have been picked up after Jedi or even before Jedi, because then that would, it wouldn't. Anyway, that it means less in this part. We know somewhere by the time Force Awakens comes into play.
Oh, you mean talking about the severed hand? Oh yeah, that's one. That's another thing. I was more thinking along the lines of when we get to the beginning of Jedi, Return of the Jedi. That is, how we get to Green Lightsaber. My hope is that we get to see him put it together.
I would think so. Yeah, I would think so. Because the only other thing with that was like, well, it's Ben's old saber, and that's not true. But now that I think about it, that's just a question I kind of want to know, and that's just me. Because if you remember, Vader fought Ben Kenobi, Obi-Wan, and his saber was still there when he cut him down.
Correct.
So Vader could have taken the saber and done who knows what with it. So I'm kind of curious. I doubt if that'll be addressed, because that's kind of a, unless, like, say in the last movie, Rey ended up being a Kenobi or something, that may have been addressed there, and she ended up with his sword somehow, which never happened. But that was a question I have always had. I'm like, well, what happened to his saber? Especially since we have like Clone Wars and Rebels, and we have seen a little bit more to the character, and I guess that upcoming show that he's gonna have, that they're supposedly working on, that used to be a movie. But hey, that's things for another time.
Sure.
And Star Wars #1, though, yeah, like I said, the direct actions after Empire, we get Luke still kind of questioning himself, especially after what's been revealed to him. There's a Empire blockade that is holding the rebels from getting to a place, and the Falcon just so happens to be in the neighborhood and helps along with that situation. And a certain commander that is very career driven, let's say, for lack of a better word,
Right.
who apparently is not on the same page as Vader, because had she completed her mission, probably would have still been in a similar situation that she finds herself in near the end of this book. Because of what happens in the book, and the rebels actually get away. Spoiler, but you can read the book. It's actually a lot of there's, this is definitely the book that you want to see that could start to answer stuff from Empire.
Right.
Like, we've seen a little bit of already. How far they're going to go with it, we will see. How far they're going to go, we know they're going to get to Return of the Jedi at some point.
Right.
Whether they do a lot of things, and kind of they're just going to start off in this arc and then kind of start dealing with other things, and probably go the same way that the last volume did.
Right. And what's cool about this is that there's definitely going to be some new character dynamics explored, because Han is frozen in carbonite. So there's going to be some more exploration of Lando's character in this era of the rebellion, and seeing all of these characters interact with each other without Han Solo.
Ooh, maybe we will get that mission that Lando was talking about with he and Luke went on.
Possibly.
Because that seemed like something that could happen around this time. And also, as I mentioned in the book from a couple of weeks ago, Poe Dameron's parents show up in this issue also as a part of the video. So they're kind of bringing them in just a little bit. So I suspect they may be a little bit more as part of the dynamic than they were, because before this and that issue, there was only the miniseries where they were introduced, And at this point, Poe's a little kid. So he is around, but he's just a little kid, a little toddler kid, wherever he is. So we may get to see what happens, what possibly ultimately happens to them during the course of this volume.
Right.
Which is a good and bad thing, because if you think about it, like, Poe had his own book, but none of that was ever explored. Because it was just him, growing up Poe doing this thing, before Force Awakens. So like I said, we get a little bit of background, possibly a little bit more into his upbringing, maybe possibly, if they decide to get into that. Maybe he'll get another book and they'll make him a spy friend. I doubt if they're going to do that. Don't do that. But regardless,
just one last point I wanted to make on this book: the art by Jesus Saiz is wonderful. The coloring by I'm just scrolling to the creative team on this issue. Charles Soule does a bang up job setting up a couple of storylines in this book by just in this book alone.
Yes.
So he's definitely hitting on all cylinders with regards to setting up the next arc or several arcs in this book. But Jesus Saiz and colorists, and actually he does some of the color on this book. The other colorist is Arif Prianto, and they both do a great job of giving it a very photorealistic look and feel without it being too stiff looking. It definitely has a comic book sensibility. It still has a good amount of action and flow to it without it being too static. There are several artists I can think of that make their art too static looking because they're trying to achieve photorealism and it doesn't work.
Okay, sure.
In this book, especially following in the footsteps of several of the artists that have done Star Wars stuff, including Sal LaRocca on the original run of Star Wars, and John Cassaday They've
Right.
all
And,
done very good jobs of capturing likenesses without their art looking too stiff.
and Phil Noto on his various books.
Correct.
Which wait, is Noto on the Darth Vader book? I can't remember. I know he's doing. He does it. He is in line on one of these projects. I can't remember. Regardless. So yeah. So this is Star Wars #1. Darth Vader #1 is another book that is coming along, and apparently there's a new volume of Dr. Aphra, which I still haven't finished that last volume. And there was also a story from in that the book from a couple weeks ago about that too. So look out, folks! Another line of Star Wars books ready in the wings.
Right.
So now I guess we can, unless you got another book you want to throw out there, we can go into.
Rapid fire. Ready?
Mhm.
We were going to do Hawkeye Freefall, but I think we are dragging on a bit, so we're going to try to rapid fire through that. I thought that this was a quirky start to this limited series, and the mystery of who is running around in the Ronin costume now is worth revisiting next issue.
So yeah, so just a couple of brief ones. So yeah, so Hawkeye basically runs into the Hood. He thinks he's gonna take him down a peg, and the Hood kind of gives him a little lesson about, how things, I guess, how things really are. And then this new Ronin comes into the position. And apparently, Hawkeye is dating a night nurse, and neither one of the ones that you know more about than this one, the Wonder Woman one,
Correct.
for a certain vintage. Which that is a whole weird, strange story right there, and I would imagine. But also gets visited by a Disney Plus series in The Falcon and Winter Soldier, of all people. Like you would almost seem like they just kind of planned it out because this is coming. So because this new Ronin's running around, and for some strange reason, those are the two people that are investigating it, trying to figure out if it's Clint or not, and then they all three get their behinds handed to them by said new Ronin.
Because God forbid they work together.
Exactly, which is also kind of weird because in the Tales of a Suspense miniseries from a couple of years ago, Clint and Bucky did work together, sort of, kind of.
Sort of, kind of. I think that's sort of, kind
That was more of a buddy cop situation, though, which I still would want to see as a movie situation. I don't know about with the MCU version of, actually maybe with the MCU version of Bucky.
I would just say that the sort of kind of bit I think is developing in this issue, and we will probably see more of it in upcoming issues. I don't know how many issues this series is. 5 or 6?
I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it's 5.
In any event, I think that's plenty of time to see this story play out. So
I doubt if they're going to be there that much longer, though.
Well, they're definitely going to be part of the next issue.
Right.
We'll see how long they stay part of the series.
So anyway, yeah.
All right, next up, for me, Daredevil number 16. Matt Murdock is still out of the costume, but it may not be for much longer. Elektra has brought him back from the edge. We also get more interaction between we get the latest interaction between Daredevil and Mayor Wilson Fisk. And our hope is that Murdock gets into the suit eventually, soon, because it's taking a while. Next up, I have Philadelphia number 2. This is an Image book about vampires in Philadelphia. It's by Rodney Barnes, who is writing the book, and Jason Sean Alexander and Luis NCT on art. I would just say that fans of the Broadway hip-hop musical Hamilton will chuckle when we find out what became of John Adams. I'll leave it at that. John Adams did not exactly have the best reputation when he was elected the second president of the United States. Next up, Tarot. What's the crickets for?
some of us still haven't seen Hamilton, so yeah. Anyway,
That's true. I forget that the touring companies only make it to certain cities around the country.
right. But if you have, good for you. So anyway, go ahead.
I'm like, I totally remember our conversation when I went to see it. So, anyway, next up, let's see, Tarot #1. I believe we both read this.
We have, yes.
I thought it was a fun story that puts the Avengers and Defenders pretty much their most classic lineups together with Diablo as a villain.
Which is weird because I was at first going into this, I was thinking, well, they had it set up to where it's like, okay, well, maybe it was just more me thinking about it, but it felt like this is going to be both teams now, which granted, both teams are not necessarily the same as what they were back then, but apparently this seems to be set in a past where they both would have come in contact with each other. So it is a new story, but it's old. It's an old setting.
Definitely not having to deal with too much of the continuity,
Right.
but also deals with very classic lineups, which is pretty fun for some older readers, I think.
Right. And I guess some would say a classic villain. I don't know how super Diablo. Well, Diablo has never been that super, but I mean, come on, he's held up.
He's definitely been a classic villain. He has plagued both the Avengers, but mostly I believe the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Right.
So next up.
Next for me is Thor #1. This is a potential click of the week. This new #1 has an offbeat start because it falls right on the heels of what Jason Aaron has done with his epic 7-year run on Thor, but it is very Donny Cates cosmic storytelling, and it's actually going to get me to come back for issue #2.
I feel like we're going to do that anyway because it's Thor, but
not necessarily. Sometimes you have to get sold on the premise.
I mean, yeah, but I don't know.
Sometimes the art would also get me to not follow up too. I'm still kind of on the fence with Nick Klein. I just got spoiled by the clean work that Esad Ribic did, with that kind of painted look, and Russell Dowderman's very clean work as well on Thor. So, Nick Klein's style is a little bit on the rougher side, but I'm willing to give it at least a bit of a longer leash than I might normally.
Sure. So I've read that King Thor #4 from last week finally, because I was gonna actually read this, but I didn't get a chance to. That was an interesting end.
Yes, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was actually pretty good. I was like, huh, but that stuff in the middle kind of threw me. It was like, okay, I know they're setting up, like there's a setup going on there, but at the same time, it just kind of came out of nowhere. I'm like, oh, okay. But but it was a good read if you ever get a chance to check it out. Anyway,
pretty awesome. And last but not least for me is Action Comics #1018. I'm a little confused at this issue simply because there was some news today that Justice League #39 has been delayed for a few weeks. It was supposed to come out, I believe, in 2 weeks. It won't come out until maybe the end of the month, if that. So, what was that?
I said, oh, weird.
Yeah, so I mean, it literally just the news literally dropped while I was reading books this evening. So I'm not sure where this particular story falls in the aftermath of Snyder's Justice League finale. Leviathan rears his head in this book, and a potential new character emerges in this issue. And that's it for me.
Alrighty. So I was typing in or copying in the rest of mine.
Okay.
We start off with Black Panther and the Agents of Wakanda #5, where we found out we basically found out why the Black Panther chose this particular group of folks, as eclectic as they are, to be in this group, and which satisfies Okoye, but when it comes to the question of letting her handle things as she suggests that he shouldn't be around because well if he wanted her to be the director of this group, he should let her handle things as opposed to him going on the missions, which up until the mission starts and who the mission entails seems to sate Okoye until that happens, because we're going to find out that there was one Wade Wilson Deadpool who finds a secret shield installation that is previously unknown, go figure, that he was filming YouTube style, of course, and fourth wall breaking as he classically does in the course of this book. Also, it is not necessarily Black Panther versus Deadpool #2, because there was that miniseries from last year that did happen, and there is some reference to that in this book. I think I read some of it, but I didn't finish because for whatever other reason. And that is the reason why basically T'Challa is on this mission, which, like I said, doesn't really please Okoye, because he just got through finished saying, hey, yeah, you're the director, you should be able to handle stuff, but then he's just like, oh, we got to go do this. So they take care of that, and there's this new players that they end up finding when they get there after trying to subdue Deadpool. And apparently from this, there is a new miniseries that looks to be out on Marvel Unlimited right now that is starring these mechanized folks that show up in this book that they're fighting against. So, and I think I haven't had the chance to check, but it says at the back of the book that, hey, check out Marvel Unlimited for the 60 series issue with these grand people we don't know anything about.
They are
pre-existing. Look at them, they look kind of animation inspired.
They are pre-existing characters. I was listening to the Marvel Pull List podcast earlier this week, and my understanding is that they're called Livewire.
Correct.
And they are a pre-existing group of characters that are from the mid-2000s when Adam Warren was working on Marvel books. He is an artist who famously has a very heavy manga influence, and worked on this group of characters. And now they have been, probably due to copyright issues, they have been brought back to the forefront.
Sure. Or at the very least into use.
Exactly.
So they could keep said copyright. So yeah, so there is that, and that so this is a two-parter that basically starts that off and it says, hey, that's out there if you're part of Marvel Unlimited, which you're not. That's not really doing them any good for that. But yeah, those are the things like I said, I tried to check earlier, but it's weird trying to get into Marvel Unlimited nowadays. I don't know why. It's hard to sign in, but supposedly it's out there. You can go check that out. And this is basically part 1 of 2 where they're dealing with this. And being that is a secret shield installation, someone shows up in one way, shape, or form. You can pretty much guess who's that's going to be, especially when I said mechanized folks.
Mm-hmm.
So know that. Next up, Doctor Doom #4. So Doctor Doom #4, apparently a Fortunov who is not Dominique, is apparently heir to the throne of Latveria. I almost said Wakanda for a second, but Latveria. And I had to look up who this person was, because I thought, wait, is this somebody's kin to Dominique Fortune? No. But but has the same has name, and there is a lineage that does apparently has something to do with the former lineage, the former line of Latvian monarchy. So that comes into play. Doom basically storms a building, undoom like, trying to get to the Taskmaster to see who set him up, and he starts to find out things on that end. And on the other side of the token, we see Victorious at the border of Latveria trying to hold things down there against Simcaria, which we've heard that name in various other places, notably the Spider-Verse. Or Spider Side of the Corner, and also Civil Cerebral basically comes into play on this, because they are now she and Victorious are now on the hunt looking for Doom, as are everybody else seemingly in the book for reasons. So So all of that is going on, and this is the 4th issue, the book of, I believe, 6 issues. I don't remember how many issues left in this book. Actually, that might not be the case. This might not be an ongoing. It might be like a 12 issue or something. Regardless, that still thing goes on. And yes, this is one of the 2 books that Dr. Doom has been shot in. Other ones has already been taken care of. We talked about that with the 2099 stuff.
Right.
I
I was under the impression that this is a longer miniseries.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I had to retract what I said. Yes, I think this might be a 12 or longer, because I'm fairly certain it doesn't necessarily say.
I want to say it's a 12.
Yeah, I'm believing that's the case. Because there's no way.
Not right, which is not which is definitely out of the ordinary nowadays. Although, thinking back, I was about to say, thinking back on our own personal comic book histories, we've seen time and again that there are certain stories that are given 12 issues.
Right.
Some of them are given 6, so we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like 6 might be the new 12 with certain stuff, which in certain cases works well. In other cases lasts way too long and takes 2 years to come out.
Doomsday Clock.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, last book I have, because I believe we have talked about everything else, Web of Black Widow #5, which is the last issue of this book. And it basically wraps up the whole, hey, there's another widow floating around with Natasha's face. And it is indeed another remnant of the Red Room who's behind it. And I feel like this, for whatever good they're going to do with the movie, it felt like some of this will probably play out there. And whether that was, that's by design or just coincidentally, especially given the last Black Widow trailer we've gotten, some of it seems to kind of feel like it would play out there. But regardless, I doubt some of the people that will show up here, that have shown up here, will probably be in that, because, depending on the time frame, I should say anyway, because during the course of this series, we had a bunch of people show up, like Bucky, Clint, Iron Man, Captain America. They've all shown up, and they all came back for this issue because apparently, as I say in my notes, Natasha has Batman-like thinking or preemptive thinking skills, because apparently she knew a lot of this was going on, and she had, set a whole bunch of things in motion to get to the point to where she finally figures out who's behind the other face that she's been facing, and kind of knew it, and that's been dealt with at the end of this issue. And even the part with her missing memories, that was a thing that was in here from her being reattached to her body, or I guess her memories almost X-Men like, being cloned and come back into the new body type situation. But those missing memories also have been dealt with at the end of this. So yeah, a lot of that, like I said, I feel like could definitely be explored in a movie if no other place. But we'll see about that if that happens.
All right. Yeah, I'm flipping through the book now, and
well, I was about to say, it's a pretty nice and neat wrap up to the story, but it was only 5 issues, so there's only so much you could do. But it was a pretty good story, I thought.
Sure. I was just going to say, I'm flipping through the book now, and the art is still a little on the rough side, but which definitely turned me off to this book early on. But I hope that when I finally sit down and read this, that the story pays off. So
I feel like it could. Like I said, it's not really that much to it. Like I said, I feel like there's stuff in here that they could explore in a movie sense. And I said, story-wise, it's not bad, but there probably could have been more done, if we're going to give it a little bit more to it. But yeah, it's not bad. Like, they're not going to give, well, I shouldn't say that. They have given her an ongoing before, but even those books didn't last that long. Like, I think the most she's probably lasted was like 12, if that, 11 or 12 in a series. So, and that was relatively recently. So all she has gotten, which at the back of the book, they do kind of say, hey, this is the end of this story, but you can go back and read some of these other ones and including that Tales of Suspense that I was talking about earlier with that maybe a slightly more direct tie to this than not. So, but if you're a fan, check it out. And that, folks, that is it for our books of the week. Now we're going to get into the clicks of the week.
Clicks of the week.
And we already have one from Tim Dog 98 in the form of Hawkeye Freefall.
Surprising, but it was an entertaining issue.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I kind of enjoyed it. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say it like it has the weight of Fractions Run, but it's also the first issue, but it was also kind of fun in that same way so far. That series kind of had. So we'll see where it goes.
One of the things that Fraction had on his run was Aja doing some phenomenal work, especially with regards to pacing and storytelling within several panels, much like Mitch Jarod was doing on Mr. Miracle with the 9-panel layout. Aja was definitely having some fun with storytelling on that original Hawkeye series with Fraction.
Yeah, he's not getting that here, but I mean the art's not terrible. But yeah, I think I almost dare want to say the art kind of fits what seems to be the story so far, but yeah. Who can say?
All right. I was about to say we're turning Roddykat into much more of critical eye for artists and storytelling over the course of this podcast.
Hey, storytelling, I'm already there. It's
the art and storytelling.
Oh yeah, I'm working on that.
Right, art and storytelling more so than just like pretty pictures. Because there's definitely artists out there who have strengths on both sides of that coin.
Oh, rest assured, if the art was a distraction, I would definitely let you know.
Sure.
But as far as clicks,
I'm torn. I have a few candidates. I definitely loved the first Star Wars book. I'm pretty impressed by, and as I mentioned, I'm pretty impressed by Soul's setup for the first couple of storylines. And as I mentioned earlier, this is the era of Star Wars that I think I am looking most forward to being filled in, like the gap that I'm looking most forward to being filled in. I'm sure that there were several extended universe novels that covered this territory, but this is still very fresh for me in terms of reading. What's that?
That's not canon anymore.
Exactly. But my point is, a lot of people probably had that itch scratched when it came to getting some of these stories in between Empire and Return of the Jedi. I haven't had that yet, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm also a big fan of this week's Thor #1 because I got a kick out of the new direction that Donny Cates wants to take the book in. And X-Men #4 was a pretty good read because of the very the analog to several real world issues that come up in this book, and to see Hickman weave the Krakoans into the current state of or at least evolve the current state of the world and adapt it to what it would be like if a Krakoa actually existed. It's pretty cool.
Right. I wish I had gotten around to. I should have read that first, but that's my dumbness. I should have read Lois Lane #7, which also came out this week. And I've been loving that book. Rucka's been doing a pretty great job, especially if you like his run on GCPD or Gotham Central, rather. Excuse me. But I haven't had a chance to read this one this week to see what's in there.
Right.
Do you have yours, or?
I'm still thinking. I just wanted to throw out my 3 because they're pretty strong candidates.
Sure.
And I feel like in honor of Alex Trebek, I'm just going to play just a snippet. So,
I liked Marauders this week also, but that's maybe because I read 4 and 5 at the same time. So
right.
That may be, as we found out earlier, clearly blurred my perception.
I was about to say I don't think I caught up on Marauders number 4 until maybe just before the New Year's holiday. I might have caught up on it between Christmas and New Year's, so that's why it still seemed very fresh to me as well.
Sure.
Over the weekend likely. So
yeah.
But I'm gonna help give you some more time if you need it.
I feel like I'm going to go ahead and just give it to, and I don't know, it feels kind of weak, but it was a good read, so it's not without its merits. I don't know. I'm going to definitely go back and reread it, and that is Star Wars #1.
I'm leaning towards it. I am.
I mean, as a fan of Star Wars, also, and not just because of the movies, but so. And that's not necessarily that you just have to be a fan. So there's that whole meme going around that why you're thinking about yours. People, because there was a not even, it wasn't a meme, but it was some stupid person talking about, hey, you're not a fan of Star Wars if you're just seeing the movies.
Was that a real tweet?
Yeah. Huh?
Was that a real tweet?
That I think that was a real. Well, there was a real tweet and that somebody tweeted it. Now, whether it was a troll real tweet or just a real tweet from somebody honestly saying that, I don't know. I kind of feel like it was a troll tweet because there's been a lot of those lately. Right. But at the same time, it's gotten reaction to it. Just
sure. I'm familiar with the tweet that you mentioned. So I saw the meme, and I wasn't all that surprised, to be honest.
No, I'm not. And plus, given, especially since Rise of Skywalker just came out not too long ago, it's not surprising that some fool would come out their mouth like that one way or the other. But folks, hey, look, if you're a fan of something, if you have come across something that you like, it no matter how you came across it, if you like something, even if you just, it's like, hey, I just saw A New Hope, that's it, you're a Star Wars fan. You're a Star Wars fan of that movie mostly, but you're definitely a fan of Star Wars. You don't have to go through the extra mile of, well, I read the books and I played the role-playing game and I did the whole EU and watched every TV show. That doesn't make you a real fan of anything.
Right. It just makes you more educated. It makes you more it broadens your perspective on a lot of it. But if all you do is like the movies, you're a fan.
Exactly. So don't let anybody steal your joy on that.
Right. I think
that's a whole other situation. Right. Never mind. We want to get into that because it was like there are people who just like XYZ because of XY person.
Sure.
That's the whole situation thing, but it still stands. Everything we just said still stands.
Right. I think I'm going to go with Star Wars #1 as well. And for the reasons that I stated, in that I'm actually looking forward to this volume of the Star Wars comic book, knowing that it's going to be filling in some of the story and will be canon, at least for the foreseeable future.
I feel like will be canon, period, because I don't think it's gonna,
like I said, foreseeable future.
I don't think, but I don't think they're gonna change it. And I'm happy because, especially with all this other Star Wars goodies that you're getting, that you're now exposing yourself to, which you had before, but still,
right, or re-exposing myself to, yeah.
Exactly. So this is.
But like I said, this is the era that I think I probably had as a fan the most questions about. So I'm definitely looking forward to reading this series. All right. So PCN_Dirt didn't give us a click, but he said that he is still catching up, probably post holidays. So that's okay. So we will move on to our first ad read of the night before we move on to our news segment. So our first ad read of the night is for Funko. Fun at First Sight. It's your home for exclusive collectibles such as their world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise such as custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcasts free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through CSPN.us. Do it today. Now it's time.
The first sight reminds me of an old Fat Boy song, but I will spare everyone that bit of thing. Instead, we will go into the cinematic news.
News.
And as we kill this auto-playing video that shows up, we will start off with the Hobbit fan made. Wait, a fan of the Hobbit made an epic supercut of the trilogy into one. That was a weird article title. Into one long movie. So basically, some dude, some person, not even, we don't know, do that, whatever. Condensed all three of the movies. Wait, excuse me, all four of the movies, if I'm not mistaken, into one long movie. Which, hey, all of those movies separately are long enough as it is. Oh wait, or is it? Let me see. Let me make sure I got that right. The title card simply reads The Hobbit with no inclusion of any of the three subtitles for any of the movies. So okay, so it is not all of the movie. It is the Hobbit movies. So it's not the first three Lord of the Rings movies. It's the Hobbit movies, which I actually still have not seen. So they basically took, I guess, the prequel trilogy.
Yeah, right.
And made them into one long movie. Because I want to say somebody did that with the I guess we can call it the original trilogy at this point, huh? The Lord of the Rings original trilogy.
That's funny.
Yeah, I know, right? Just weird. We are living in some weird times. But apparently, let me see. This edit is, compared to the entire theatrical versions of the films, though the trilogy runs 7 hours and 54 minutes, meaning the editor cut out over 2 hours and 45 minutes, or roughly the entire runtime of The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. So I totally forgot there was a third Hobbit. Wait, I thought it was only 2 of those. Am I tripping?
No, it's 3.
Okay, well, then I totally blanked out because I only know about 2.
Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug, and whatever the third one was.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was like, what is the third one then? I don't remember. Regardless, I still haven't seen any of those ones. So yeah, but you know what? There's a fan edit.
Battle of 5 Armies.
5 Armies? Okay. Yeah, I did say that here, but I was like,
yeah,
I thought that was from the original trilogy.
That's just stuff. It's stuff that I caught, I think, on cable. So that's probably why I don't remember it very well.
Sure. So regardless, that's out there if you have read, so if you have watched, well, hell, if you read The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings stuff, but that's actually The Hobbit was only one book. They made it into 3. Go figure.
Mm-hmm.
And then they made 3 books into 3 other movies, which could have been more than that. Now that I remember, but thankfully not. Anyway, there's a fan edit. You can go check it out if you are so inclined. Next up,
in good news for fans of The Mandalorian, The Mandalorian and Baby Yoda will return for a second season in the fall of 2020, confirmed by Jon Favreau.
Yeah, good news. Yeah, like right after the last episode of the Mandalorian drop, we come to find out this news. Later that morning, I guess you could say, or that afternoon. And some news I actually didn't pull, but I wanted to mention here. Apparently, there are people who dropped Disney Plus after The Mandalorian ended.
Really?
Yeah, like a bunch.
That's crazy.
Kind of funny because it was like, I saw a couple of tweets on that, and then like a day later or so, I saw sites picked up the fact that was happening. So apparently, yeah. So people picked it up for. I mean, to be. I actually there's a lot of content on Disney Plus, but if you're going there for a couple of singular reasons, you probably already blew through all of that.
Well, what I was gonna say is, I've had a very strange experience with talking to people about Disney Plus and whether or not they're going to get it if they don't already have it.
Right.
So there's several, people have several different reasons, but the first thing I have not yet, the one thing I have not yet heard is someone dropping it because they finished watching The Mandalorian. I'm
Mhm.
wondering if Disney may have mistimed, and I did read an article about this, mistimed the release of The Mandalorian. They should have waited maybe until after Rise of Skywalker to release it, but they also wanted to have people sign up for the service. So
I don't know what good that would have done because it's not like they would have had any more content to go along.
try to maybe capitalize on Rise of Skywalker, as well as have less of a gap in between this round of new content and the next round of new content, which is going to come, I guess, with the next Marvel shows.
Right.
So
They're not
that's the
coming.
only reason why. That's the only reason why I even gave this particular thought piece any sort of credence.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I can see it, but at the same time, like, I don't think it would have made that big of a difference on that front. Because like I said,
Mm-hmm.
whether before the movie or after the movie, they probably wouldn't have been there that long after this, unless they said, hey, this ends, and then a couple months later, then the next one comes in, then sure, maybe, I don't know. Who even knows? But moving right along. Oh, Jesus. Stop it. I hate the site. The Mandalorian brings back a toy abandoned from the original movie, which I know this thing from Rebels. So basically, that if you've been watching The Mandalorian and you see that one that trooper transport that shows up, that was a toy that apparently did not make the original film. That has shown up in other places. I believe it also shown up in Clone Wars too, maybe, but I know I have definitely seen it in Rebels.
Right. Wasn't that in the episode where they're trying to get Sabine's dad out of
Probably, but it definitely shows up early on in season 1 where some people got captured. They use it to basically
right.
yeah, they got captured, or they captured, and then they had to rescue them. So yeah, that it has shown up a couple of different times in Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
That I know of. Yeah, so it says from a number of episodes in Star Wars Rebel to even that Jedi Fallen Order video game that is out also. So, but this is the first live action version of that said transport, which means the toy is probably going to come back out at some point soon. So,
okay. Next up, for people who have not yet watched The Mandalorian, the last episode of the first season, episode 8 of the first season, there is
one part I hate it. I love this part of it, with the exception of the one thing that everybody's
right, of course, that everyone's going to complain about. But the one aspect of this kind of cold open that we saw that does not have to do with Baby Yoda per se, has to do with the awful aim that stormtroopers possess. No matter what kind of gun they have, no matter what kind of range they're at, no matter what kind of time they're given,
like that was
they still can't shoot anything. They can't barely shoot the broadside of a barn.
Well, yeah, I feel like this was taken a little bit to the extreme. It was funny as all get out, but
Right.
I feel like it was taken to the extreme. In fact, this article, I don't know, this article, I feel like they listened to us or something, because I know I have mentioned something when this came up previously about plot armor, and I don't believe that this would be, but yeah, somebody decided to probably has no bearing on that. I'm not going to sit here and say that we run comic books. We do. But someone decided to explain what plot armor is as if folks did not know, which some people don't know. So who, I still don't believe it justifies calling what this is. Nevertheless, it was funny as all get out, and that whole thing with the two troopers talking to each other in general was actually pretty good.
Sure.
Apparently one of those troopers and the abuser in question was Jason Sudeikis.
Yes.
And I'm not sure who the other guy was, who, if he's of note, I should say. Like, he does have a name, but I just can't remember right off the bat. But the exchange in between them just reminded me, for some strange reason, which has nothing to do with it, of Troops. If you remember the old YouTube video Troops, I feel like I have linked it before, and I don't have it in this particular show notes. But watch Troops on YouTube. It's basically the Cops version of the Star Wars version of Cops, and it's an old video, but it's pretty good, despite what it's about. And obviously a parody, but yeah, them two talking just kind of reminded me of that, and it was I enjoyed that part of it. As you said, the cold open is pretty good, and the whole aim thing was like, okay, it's funny, but at the same time, it's like, okay, they just they went a little far with it, it felt a little exaggerated. Which, by the way, in the show notes, that should be with under the video and or on the page you may have found this on. There is an article that someone from the same site basically said, hey, is it the stormtroopers are really bad aim, or is it the weapons? Because I do remember, and I remember even saying this, that their lack of aim was blamed on a particular issue of rifle that came out that was defective. Like, I remember this from way, way back, and that was one justification of why the stormtroopers couldn't shoot for nothing.
Right.
So you can go check that out if you're so clued. We're gonna move on. And the Cassian Andor character breakdowns point to a point of origin story, as according to this report. So Cassian Andor is going to get a Disney Plus show. I believe I'm fairly certain this was one of the first shows that was slated to be, I mean, outside of the Mandalorian, but it was the first one that they talked about coming to Disney Plus, but it's also the one that still hasn't been done yet. And apparently, according to this character breakdown, there's one for 2 children, and I don't know if this article goes into it. Is this the one that says that maybe? No, this might not be it. I felt like there was also another possible casting for a young Princess Leia, but I'm not sure if it's in this or not, or it may be in another article in this. But regardless, there's character breakdowns for 2 children that probably will be associated with Cassian, and possibly going into his origin previous to Rogue One. So we'll see how that plays out if that is the case.
All right.
Next
up, we've got some news released about the Star Wars TV shows that are coming to Disney Plus in the coming year or two. We have, as previously mentioned, the Clone Wars Season 7, which is going to be released on or about February 2020. We'll see what part of the month that is. The Cassian Andor series, which Roddykat was just mentioning, coming out sometime in 2020 or 2021. And the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, which is sort of to be determined still, but it's not going to be that far away.
Right. Just in the galaxy far, far away.
There you go.
So there was a teaser trailer that was out there that had the bits of this story that Agent 70 was just talking about, also along with some other Disney Plus stuff, but this article was more Star Wars centered, which we get into some of the said bits in the next article, in that the Clone Wars Season 7 release month, like Agent 70 just said, confirmed plot and possible spoilers. So I won't go through too much of it, but like I said, from like what Agent 70 said, and from this teaser, like we get little bits and pieces of we definitely got when it comes out, which is February, like I said, and we also get little pieces of what could be potentially happening. I heard shades of Siege of Mandalore being talked about.
Definitely.
Which I thought they had already done in I know they've talked about it, and obviously they've talked about it in Mandalore, and I felt like they may have talked about it in Rebels. But I felt like Clone Wars may have done something about that before. I could be wrong. Regardless, guess what, folks? We're gonna get it now. So that ought to be cool to see. And according to what that picture, if you're watching the video, says, there may be possibly, or according to this, Darth Maul and Ahsoka will battle. So
Interesting.
Yeah, Darth Maul, the one who they've never killed apparently.
Well, they have.
No, they have, but it keeps coming back, so they didn't kill
Oh,
him.
Rebels.
Well, yeah, they did then. What hell? Who knows? Probably still got no resistance for we wouldn't know. But
I was about to say, at least you got to that part of Rebels. I'm gonna keep digging.
oh yeah, no. That's you're all right about that.
Until he finishes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
All right. Well, you got the next story, which is kind of related to the previous story.
Not well. Sure. It's Rise of Skywalker Easter eggs and
Actually, no. Wait, no. You do. Oh, you already finished the season 7, the release month
Yeah, I
confirmed.
did that one. That's what I just did.
Sorry about that. So the next story is Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker Easter eggs and references you may have missed. Oh goodness, what the heck did we miss?
So I believe I had this. I feel like I had this in the lineup on the Treasure Edition. We didn't.
Right, I think we ran through some of them.
Right. So in fact, we did. In fact, I think we did run through.
Oh yeah, we did the 1977, the 42 years. Yeah, we did.
Right. But this is basically another call and say, hey, if you didn't watch the Treasure, listen to the Treasure Edition. Hey, go forward, do so, because some of this gets brought up.
Definitely.
All right, actually, all of this gets brought up now that I think about it. Yeah, Akbar's son. Star Wars fan predicted the big Palpatine twist in The Rise of Skywalker years ago. So I believe I also mentioned this in the Treasure Edition, in that 2 years ago, there was a YouTube video basically making the prediction that Rey was, hey, spoiler alert, Rey's parentage, just in case you hadn't seen the movie or watched or listened to the thing. I will spare you that. So, but yeah, so there was a theory about Rey's parentage, and I guess it's a kind of a spoiler if you're watching this video. Anyway, so that's the thing, and some fan knew about it. Well, at least thought about it 2 years ago.
Right.
So, good on them. I still haven't watched that video, but it's still out there. Next up,
Lucasfilm. The Lucasfilm Story Group chops arms off a 20-year-old Star Wars fan theory. Okay, what is this theory?
So basically, the TLDR is that Palpatine made Anakin.
Oh, right.
Which it's not true.
Oh, it's not?
Well, according to the story board group, who said that.
So I think I remember hearing something about this, is that people are misinterpreting what they saw in the comic.
Yes, because this came up in Darth Vader's last Darth Vader 25. When I remember this, I thought it was kind of odd myself. But I kind of put it out of my mind after that, because even you can see the picture here, you can make some assumptions about what this picture would denote.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also take it another way, which apparently the people didn't. So, which I'll be honest with, I think probably when I saw this picture, I probably thought a similar thing. Yeah, but it did definitely have me questioning. Like, I didn't really go into it like that happened, because it was really weird and didn't make any sense given what we knew then, even what we know now. But so yeah, but apparently, they put the kibosh on that. However, going to the next story, apparently Palpatine's voice actor thinks Emperor created Anakin Skywalker. So I saw this tweet from one Sam Witwer, who has played a lot of who you may know him as Palpatine from the Clone Wars and other places. And I believe in Being Human, I believe is where a lot of people may know him from, but he's done a little bit of voice work lately in the Star Wars thing. So he was basically out there saying that, hey, and this was after the dude from the story group kind of put the kibosh on the theory, and either somebody asked Whitwer about this, or Whitwer responded some kind of way, regardless. Huh? Oh, I thought you said. Okay, so it says a fan was quickly pointed out that what was already said about the debunking, and then Whitwer was like, and I disagree with him. George put it in his movie. He said, I know a thing or two about the dark side, and I say it's possible, But why? Why do exist as possible? Because George Lucas made an independent movie and suggested it was possible. As makers of Star Wars, we are here to lay possibilities on the table, not to take them away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can go a couple of different places with that kind of thinking, and I'm going with the storyboard group on this one. Like, yeah, what he says has a negative truth, but at the same time, it's like, no, you can interpret what you want. It doesn't mean your interpretation is any right just because it was in here a certain way, or potentially a certain way. Hell, some people still misinterpret the Bible a whole different other ways. It doesn't mean how they interpret it as the truth.
Right.
But hey, I digress. So now, whether he was pulling folks' leg or whether he actually believed it, which there is no sign that would suggest that he wasn't, that he didn't believe it. In other words, it felt like he did actually believe what he was saying. You know, I don't know. That's sure, whatever. Next up.
All right. Next up, Crazy Rich Asians director John Chu pitches a Rose Tico series for Disney Plus. I think we talked about this on the Treasure Edition that we just recorded. So you can listen to that. But apparently, let's see if there's right. Let's see here. I'm just looking to see what he proposed, or he didn't give too much. He just said, "Let me in, coach. Let me do it."
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically. If there was another tweet, if there was another tweet behind it, then I don't remember seeing that.
Holy cow! The CBR article says she was on screen for a mere 1 minute and 16 seconds.
Right. I feel like, well, there's another article that said 1 minute 22 seconds. Regardless, yeah, it's still very.
Yeah, 6 seconds. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I feel like we did talk about that, or at least we mentioned that.
As opposed to 10 minutes and 53 seconds in The Last Jedi. Holy cow.
Right. And there was even, I think, someone on Twitter, which I kind of sort of agree with. So it recently, I didn't put this in the articles or in the lineup either, but so y'all know why? Do y'all want to know why Dominic Monaghan was in the Rise of Skywalker outside of J.J. Abrams' film?
Okay, outside of that?
Yeah. Well, apparently he made J.J. Abrams made a bet with him on a soccer, basically made a soccer bet. And basically, I think he was like, it was some team won, he'd put him in Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
And that's what you can do when you're run rich and you're a filmmaker. You can put who you want into who happens to be friends you've dealt with before. Like I said in the Treasure Edition, like it should be no surprise that this, or Kerry Russell or anyone else that is friends with J.J. Abrams at this point. But the point somebody made in that was when this came out was that all of his lines that was given to him, this white guy, could have been given to Rose, who just got into a movie just because of a bet, with a friend of his. Could have been given to Rose Tico. It would have kind of felt weird coming from her, but nevertheless, especially because he might have been the one that was talking about the Hodel maneuver, but still, regardless.
Right, he does a couple of things here and there, but at the end of the day, it's just words. He's not doing anything, and it's just
he was basically just getting in the movie, getting a check for less than nothing. He got way more screen time than Ken Marie Tran. And the reason why, I don't know if I have this in the article. I thought I did put it in this. Oh yes, I did. It's the next one. Let's get into that. The Rise of Skywalker writer explains why several Rose scenes were cut, and I'm just going to go ahead and call bullshit right now. And partly for the reason why I just said, but the too long didn't read of this was that she had Kelly Marie Tran had a bunch of scenes, or had some scenes with Carrie Fisher, and supposedly their visual quality was not up to the standard and ultimately cut, according to the writer, the screenwriter.
The special effects part, right?
Which, again, I'm going to call bullshit. Like, yes, okay, maybe it did something that happened, but come on, seriously, that is that is supposedly the reason why it was cut. Okay. Anywho, I don't think there's anything else that's come out since then about that, but I don't think too many people, believe this reasoning.
Mhm.
But that was the reasoning that was given.
Right. Alrighty. Next up, writer Chris Terrio, in an interview with Awards Daily, explained that as the script evolved, he actually wanted to split episode 9 into 2 parts, making up part 1 and part 2 of episode 9, a la Deathly Hallows.
Oh, weird. It's almost like he would get 2 checks from doing that also. Weird. By the way, yes, this is that same writer who was talking from the last. So I think this might have been the same, the same place he was talking. So of course he would want to do it, put it into 2, into 2 movies. I mean, that's kind of a cynical view, but hey, come on,
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood. I would. If you told me that was the case, that was the case. Next up, why spoiler news so much about Sith in the Rise of Skywalker? So we're folding back around to Dominic Monaghan's character, whose name apparently was Beaumont Ken. This is coming from the Visual Dictionary, which is now out. By the way, you can buy and peruse all these nice facts yourself. Apparently, he was a says here. With episode 9's introduction to a host of new characters, Beaumont Ken played a relatively minor role, not as minor as Rosiko, by the way. The lost favorite portraying a resistance trooper. Some fans were left a little puzzled by Ken's encyclopedic knowledge. It turns out that he was a historian before joining the resistance, I believe. So it says here, like, yes, the passage on Ken explains how he was on track to become one of the youngest professors at the Lurk Historical Institute when the First Order destroyed the Hosnian system.
Okay.
So he was basically a professor before he joined the fight. Like, okay, sure, whatever. So that's pretty much how we knew, which I don't think we even talked about that part because his part was still relatively insequential in the bigger stream of things. And he still had more screen time than Rusty.
Oh, you mean inconsequential? Okay.
That's what I said. That's what I meant.
I was like, wait, insequential. I'm like,
Insequential. Well, I mean,
I got you. No worries. Okay. Next up, Star Wars, the practical reason for Rise of Skywalker's tread speeders.
Who's Krasomatic?
So the tread speeders is the new vehicle that the stormtroopers, I believe, were or the First Order's troopers were riding.
They're flying.
Right, the ones that boosted them. Right, the ones that gave them the air boost and showed off the fact that they had boosted literally or figuratively some jetpacks from the Mandalorians.
Basically, I think did we? I feel like we mentioned that in the. I hope we had mentioned that in the
Probably just in passing.
Yeah, because I know I've said it online. It was like they totally stole that. Anywho, and matter of fact, I think I also mentioned something about because it says here that due to their anti-repulsor lift technology, I was like, well, they took Stark Tech too, which that was just a joke. They don't,
right.
But the tread speeders are slated to have great military value to the First Order, which saw fit to create vehicles immune to their own high-yield repulsor jamming technology should it ever be used against them. So again, this is also coming from the visual dictionary, that font of knowledge, such as it is.
Right. So annoying.
Yeah, kinda. Next up. Hang on.
All right. Is this me, Deadpool?
Yes.
All right. Deadpool 3 is in development at Marvel Studios, confirmed by Ryan Reynolds. So good for them.
Oh, wait. No. Hold on. We're missing one.
We skip one?
Skip one. Yeah.
Jimmy?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Apparently, so yeah, Deadpool 3, whatever. Apparently, the new Star Wars planet Kijimi was named after a synthesizer. one that JJ apparently particularly likes, according to a picture.
Okay.
Which is not in this article, I don't think, but yeah. So JJ Abrams, let's see, he's a big synth fan, and apparently the Kajimi is a lush polysynth from Black Corporation, also maker of stuff plus some other stuff, blah 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 blah. So yeah, he named a new planet after a synthesizer. You know, along with the other stuff he has put in the movie that is of real world note, I guess. It's a nice looking synthesizer though, but hey, there you go. The more you know. Next up, that's the Deadpool thing. We already talked about that. Go ahead and take this next one.
Another Black Widow trailer is coming sooner than you think, probably to surprise everyone, including Scarlett Johansson. It's going to air on January 13th, 2020, during the College Football National Championship on ABC.
So, in other words, it won't be like
yeah,
early in the morning like this other one did.
Right. It's just a matter of when during the game they're going to drop it.
Probably halftime, I would imagine, but yeah, who knows? Game begins at 8, so man, maybe not. Well, 3 hours. Yeah, that could be probably. Well, wait, is there? Let me shut up. Anyway, it's college football. And who cares when it shows up?
You got me.
Huh?
I said you got me.
Yeah. Doctor Strange 2 debuts a character Marvel has always wanted, quote unquote, to use. And that character is sorry, blah blah blah. Oh, so apparently Clea and Jericho Drum, aka Dr. Voodoo, will possibly make their MCU debuts in the Doctor Strange sequel.
Interesting.
Yeah, really. So let me see. And actually, it doesn't necessarily say who this other person is, though. But Feige basically said that sometimes choosing a title hero, choosing which main character team you want to bring to the screen, and oftentimes it's as you're making and developing the movie, asking who will it be, who will fit into it. The next Doctor Strange film, for instance, features some new MCU characters which will be making a debut in that movie. You won't expect or guess who it is, but we found a cool way to make it work because we want to make a particular type of movie there. And there was a character who we always wanted to do something with who will really fit. And then it just goes into the rumors, like I just said, of Clea and Jericho Drum. So those are just rumors and not necessarily the actual factuals.
Right. Okay.
So I don't know who this other person is going to be. Maybe it's Ghost Rider. Could be Nick Cage again. We don't know. Could be. God, hope not.
You just had to bring it up. Next up, Kevin Feige, in a recent New York Film Academy interview, said that a film currently in production features a transgender character. My bet is Eternals, because there's a whole host of people in that movie.
Yeah, I totally can see that one either because I'm not sure where I was totally thinking, but whoever I was thinking at the time wouldn't have been the one because they're more of a shapeshifter, not transgender. But yeah, I feel like that if they're going to do it, it's probably going to be where they did it.
Yeah, because like I said, there's a whole host of people in that movie that they can put in. So definitely think that they're going to take that opportunity to broaden everybody's perspectives and horizons on that.
Yeah, because that's the only other, fairly certain that's the only other film outside of Black Widow that they're actively filming, I believe. So could be Black Widow, but I doubt it. Next up, Disney Plus has found its Miss Marvel, according to a report. So it sounds like, well, this is a rumor, so we don't know anything but what somebody just tweeted out that's saying. So I need to stop putting a lot of these rumors in, especially if they're not, have any kind of active sourcing. So, but sometimes it's fun, but a lot of times it's annoying. So we may or may not have found a Miss Marvel. We don't know who it is. So this is kind of useless.
Right.
Next up.
In one story where we do have sourcing, Kevin Feige, again, at that same talk at New York Film Academy, confirmed that Disney Plus's She-Hulk, Moon Knight, and Miss Marvel shows all have their respective showrunners in place, so they do have direction and are not rudderless ships.
He seems like he knows what he's talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, in certain lights, look like Opie from from Mayberry. But anyway, that's let me stop. That's not. I wasn't me to saying that to be mean, but that last picture of him did kind of look like a grown up Opie. Anywho, so yeah, and it looks like so 2 out of the 3 of them are women, the showrunners in question. So I would presume those would be for the 2 shows that are leading with women leads. Maybe one for Moon Knight. Who knows? But yeah, so that's good news. Moving right along, Falcon and Winter Soldier. Set photo reveals an X-Men centric location, and that location ends up being Madripoor. Which, as we have known in the comics, especially recently, there's been more light drawn on. I mean, it's been in and out of the comics for years, granted, so it's not like a place that's been like on the low, but at the same time, it has that name has kind of popped up here and there relatively frequently in the comics also.
Right.
And not X-Men centered. So that's not saying these exclusives too, but that's usually the place that you would know it from, historically. So yeah. So it sounds like Falcon Bulky maybe possibly going to Madripoor.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
There's definitely lots of storytelling possibilities there.
Or at the very least, it'll be brought up. Necessarily, that doesn't necessarily mean they may go there. Like, it could be just reference it,
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh yeah, we found out there's some things going on in Madripoor. We don't need to go, but I'm just saying there's a thing. Maybe they'll run into Taskmaster and he's there, which has happened in the case in the comic. So next up,
let's see. We're moving into our spillover. There's a report that Moon Knight will feature 2 major Marvel horror characters, according to somebody on Patreon. Apparently, Werewolf by Night and Dracula will appear in Moon Knight.
Yeah, apparently this person is a, I guess, a quote unquote credible rumor person.
Okay.
I don't know. I still would like more better sourcing than that, but at the same time, I picked this thing, so I'm just like I said earlier, I'm at fault. But if it's the case, then it makes sense because Werewolf by Night and Dracula, that little known character Dracula, who's never seen in the movies ever any place before,
right? But not Marvel, but not from the Marvel perspective. So
it's really the same character. Who cares? Yeah. So yeah, Werewolf by Night, Dracula, maybe possibly Moon Knight makes sense if that happens. Disney Plus moves up WandaVision premiere to 2020 instead of 2021 as it originally was slated. Which, I guess just like and not unlike Wonder Woman. Well, they never said they were moving up Wonder Woman, but it's just finished.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, apparently, there's still no exact date on when it's going to release, but it is definitely slated to be on this year 2020 and not the ABC show, which is actually kind of funny now that you think about it. It's 2020 and they don't have any 2020 on the air anymore. So I don't know, weird. If you're of a certain vintage, you know what 2020 is and not the Vision. Next up, although, I see that 2020 Division. Okay.
Films are quietly disappearing from Disney Plus. Interesting.
I like he's just like, okay, I'm moving this along.
Yeah. So as 2020
kind of goes along with something we talked about in the past. Remember, there was an article about someone was scraping through the data and found out there looked to be expiration dates on some of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
But even though there's no front-facing notice of that, but apparently maybe some of that was actually true. but it's not like big stuff. It looks like it's stuff like Dr. Dolittle, Pirates of the Caribbean, On Stranger Tides, the Home Alone movies, and the Sunlight are no longer on.
That's
Disney.
interesting. That's interesting. I'd like to have watched The Sandlot on Disney Plus.
Well, too bad. Should have
You're
called
killing me, Smalls.
I saw that on there, and I was like, that seems weird to be on there, but I think that was a Fox property, if I'm not mistaken.
That's interesting.
And Home Alone 2 makes sense. It's not Christmas anymore. So, I mean, that's not saying that shouldn't be a reason why to take it off, but still, those are Christmas movies.
You're killing me, Smalls.
And I believe they still have some of the other Christmas offerings on there, so don't write and tell me that stuff. So, yeah, we don't know. With the exception of Dr. Dolittle and Pirates of the Caribbean, I believe all of those were Fox properties. So I was going to say maybe that has something to do with it more than not, but maybe not. Disney hadn't said anything according to this article, so who knows what's going on. Let's see. Yeah, I guess because if someone said it went back into the vault. Which Fox movies in the Disney vault. Who would have thought that was going to be the case?
Right.
Next up, from The Witcher, that major change to Netflix's Geralt is because of Henry Cavill, and I believe you and I, Agent 70, might have talked about this, maybe behind the scenes. I can't remember or not. Or no, we mentioned on the show because. And I think I said something about he's pretty stoic, and he is kind of in the games. But apparently, according to the books, he's usually talkative, and even in the book, in the games, he's more talkative than he is on the show. But basically, according to this article, because according to, I guess, the writer, who said in the first episode when he originally wrote it, Geralt spoke a lot because that's what he looks like. That's what he's like in the books. People always think of Geralt as his stoic, which kind of still is, but in the books he talks nonstop. And like I said, in the game he kind of doesn't talk as much, but he can talk a good bit. But when we were on the set, and especially when we got in the cutting room, we realized that we didn't need all the exposition. Henry brings such a depth and layered performance to Geralt that we don't need him to tell us anything that he's feeling, which I feel like you could spin that a whole different other way, but we won't get into that,
right?
Maybe because of lack of acting that you would make him say. But nah, you know what, Cavill's doing pretty good on that one from what I've seen so far. Have you watched it?
No, not yet. Have you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've watched I hadn't watched all of it yet. But I watched like the first 2 or 3 episodes. It's pretty good.
That's cool.
Yeah. Moving right along.
All right, so I've got the full comic book television release schedule. It's all the CW stuff. 2020, we're gonna get Deathstroke, Knights and Dragons, season 1 on CW Seed. January 6th, January 21st, DC Legends of Tomorrow. Season 5 is going to start in the CW. January 24th, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is going to start season 3 on Netflix. Katie Keene season 1 is going to start on the CW February 6th and February 7th. Lock and Key season 1 is going to start on Netflix, and that's the immediate future.
Right, and there's some other stuff that is returning and coming back, such as the Boondocks and WandaVision started. We've already talked about that. That Pennyworth season 2 apparently still a thing. Titan season 3 is going to be themed. Doom Patrol season 2. Another season of Spider-Man on Disney XD. Falcon and Winter Soldier. Hellstrom apparently is possibly still slated. Stargirl. Stuff that's a little bit more pertinent. And there's some other stuff. I don't know what this Hilda is. I don't know if that's Hilda as in Sabrina's aunt, Hilda. So I have no idea what that is and what title, what comic book that's related to.
You got me.
And of course, there's Young Justice season 4 that is coming. The Boys, more DuckTales. Yeah. So a lot of stuff coming down the pike. For Joker, though, you can read the full screenplay online if you so choose to do such a thing, according to Deadline. Well, excuse me, that last paraphrase was from me, but if you definitely wanted to, you can go to Deadline. So, what does it say here? Yeah, the script is notably opened with an intro disclaimer from Todd Phillips and Silver, who provide a quick description of the tone, backdrop, and place within the DC extended universe. Also, the year 1981-ish, and it kind of goes into all of that. So, I guess they intended to put this online because you don't normally open up a you don't necessarily put a script online with an opening, with a forward. So, but like I said, there's a link in the article if you so choose to want to check that out. Have you seen it?
What's that?
Joker.
No, not yet.
Yeah, neither have I. Which
I got to do it, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Given what happened last week, I don't want to risk doing it the same way I was doing it, but I don't care enough about that movie to do it. We'll see. We got end of the year stuff we still need to hash out, so we'll see if that happens before that. Next up.
All righty. Apparently, Jared Leto's Joker will not appear in the upcoming Birds of Prey movie, even though.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
What's up? Okay. So apparently we're sharing that, and that's a good thing. Yeah, I was just going to add that despite the fact that this Harley Quinn story doesn't necessarily follow up on all of the events of that Suicide Squad movie, it does in fact follow up in time. So it follows up on her breakup apparently with Mr. J, and that particular version of Mr. J, and I kind of find it surprising that we won't even get a cameo.
No, I'm glad. He does not need it. Screw that guy anyway. But I hated that version of Joker. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I know people like him because they like Jared Leto, but that's a stupid reason to like a character.
That's fine.
Personally, but it wasn't good. It wasn't to me.
Fine.
Yeah. Anyway, moving right on.
Fine.
Like, as the house burns all around you, while you're sitting with your cup.
Mm-hmm.
CW's Deathstroke cartoon sneaks up with a debut date, and that date is shortly coming in January 6th on the CW Seed streaming service. So 4 days from this here recording, that thing's gonna be out. If they don't like the other ones, it's gonna be a real short, because those things are not very long. In fact, I think the whole thing, usually a whole quote unquote season, is usually like 30 minutes. If they do them like the rest of them. If they don't do them like the rest of them, then the rest of them got robbed, because they didn't. They would have done Vibe and not Vibe, Vixen dirty. But we'll see. Next up.
Alrighty, next up. Report: Watchmen's Yahya Abdul Mateen II is playing Morpheus in Matrix 4.
Now,
yes, we had our respective quotes coming up.
Yes, which I feel like this was the initial rumor. Basically, people saying, "Hey, he's going to play Morpheus anyway," and this is just more on that, I guess. Which, you know what? Hey, he's all right. Oh, sure, why not? If that ends up being the case, maybe a little. I don't want to say stunt casting, but yeah, I don't know. The dude's all right. But I believe last but not least for our cinematic stuff, Sid Mead, the visionary futurist who worked on Blade Runner and Tron, has passed away at the age of 46. So it doesn't say. I don't believe it says what he died from, but just that he's recently passed away in Pasadena. He was 86, survived by his family. He has worked on a lot of stuff, including the aforementioned stuff, including Star Trek, the motion picture, Aliens, Time Cop, Mission Impossible 3, Elysium, and Tomorrowland. So he's been working for a good long time.
Okay.
Says Roger Cervic, his spouse and business partner of 40 years, told Deadline that Meade had been in failing health due to lymphoma cancer, and he was undergoing treatment at City of Hope in Duarte, California. So that is possibly what got him.
Yep.
He also did Blade Runner 2049 as well as the original Blade Runner. So, and I know there was a lot of condolences on Twitter from various comics industry folk, knowing his work, and cinematic folks knowing his work. So it's definitely, if you did not know his name, you definitely knew of his work. So that is a sad passing.
Definitely.
And that is the end of the cinematic news. I would like to point out to people a bit in the clickbait section that there is a article about the 12 Star Wars episodes to watch, explaining that Mandalorian bombshell. You know the one I'm talking about. And yes, definitely, if you watch that video, if you watched the end of the Mandalorian, like, what was that about? Yeah, these are definitely the episodes that you want to go check out, and possibly including the upcoming Clone Wars season, which I'm fairly certain will probably will play a part in.
Right, you'll learn. Yeah, I was about to say, you probably just need to watch what's already out there and catch up on Rebels to get to.
I mean, for the most part, that's basically what this is saying. But yeah,
to get to a point where you're basically caught up with everybody else.
But there's a whole arc in Clone Wars that
definitely,
yeah, that deals with the Mandalorians, and the Darksaber definitely comes into play. Oops, I said it.
Mm-hmm.
The Darksaber, man. I love that when they have. I'm like, because my big thing is like, okay, how the hell did he get it? Anyway, that's spoilers for
that's season 2.
Yeah, I know, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing that. And I guess, I don't know. There are questions about that because, one, how did he get it, and two, like, is it going to feed into this next season of Clone? Well, I guess no, it's not, because this is technically after that, way after that fact. So never mind. So even if they don't talk about it here, I imagine they'll get to a point in this next season of Clone Wars where that's coming up. And I guess, well, wait, because Rebels is before this also. So technically, whatever happened in Rebels with that feeds into this.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like Agent 70 said. Anyway, it's cool all the way around. It's a cool thing. Now we go into the comic book news.
We'll transition into the comic book news now. Just give me a second.
It's really not a whole lot this week, surprisingly, but
Well, we're still in the new year, so we're still just breaking the wrap on 2020. So there isn't as much comic book news as there probably will be next week.
Sure, and a lot of it is like stuff that happens in this week's books anyway, which to happen. I already saw one or two that's like, yeah, but we just didn't talk about it. Anyway, the youngest X-Men just broke Krakoa's cardinal rule. I alluded to this earlier. And this is coming from last week's New Mutants number 4.
Yep.
In which those troublesome French kids just start.
Those are some weird kids, man.
They are. They totally are. Like, even a little bit I read from the last volume, it's like, the heck? Because even that last volume, they cause a whole lot of trouble.
Yeah, we're referring to Maxine and Manon, the little twin. I think they're twins.
Yes.
The little twin French kids who basically are mind controllers, and they were not very friendly to the X-Men when they first met.
Nope.
And they proved to not be very helpful on an away mission.
Well, some would argue that they were very helpful in the wrong way.
Right.
But yeah. Like, this is not no Star in Aurora, folks.
Definitely not.
So yeah, if you haven't read New Mutants number 4, check it out. It's the thing. So I would imagine I assume that's going to come up again. We can only assume because like, yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, I think this part. I think what I think it's Duggan who's on New Mutants,
Yes.
and Hickman is co-writing, correct?
Wait. No, it says Brisson. Ed Brisson's.
Brisson. I'm sorry. It's
Wait, that one doesn't seem right though. But yeah, this is Ed Brisson and Marco Falia.
hold on. It is Brisson.
Yeah.
It is Brisson on issue number.
Which makes sense because and things that happened in that in that issue makes a whole lot more sense now. Because Brisson's lot is kind of a more action oriented dude.
Right, and Brisson, yeah, I guess Brisson wrote the previous issue as well. Didn't Hickman co-write?
I think Duggan is doing. I think Duggan is doing New Mutants, but he's also doing that other stuff without that's the folk out in space, and not this.
Right. So yeah, exactly. I think that's how they split up the duties, the writing duties on this book.
Right.
So I think that the next issue is going to have this Earthbound arc.
That's when they get back to the main team. Yeah.
Exactly. So this has proven to be a very interesting book, dividing its time between the OG New Mutants plus a couple of new additions to them. And
wait, no, because it says I'm looking at the first issue says Brisson too, so I think he's been writing the whole time.
on New Mutants?
Yeah.
What am I thinking of when I'm thinking of
Duggan is doing Marauders for certain.
Right. Duggan is doing Marauders. What was Hickman co-writing for the beginning? I think it was New Mutants.
Well, he's also on New Mutants. Also, he's co-writing. Well, according to Comixology, he's co-writing, but I think he kind of has a hand in all of. Like he's kind of overseeing everything.
Right.
So, like he's kind of just there, but he's letting them doing but he's just guiding them.
Right. That was my understanding. I thought that he had a more direct hand in New Mutants.
I think he's directly writing X-Men.
Right. That I know, but
yeah,
in terms of any sort of co-writing arrangement, I thought it was New Mutants. I could be wrong, but
right.
In any event, we'll see where this goes in the next issue because I think that's probably going to tie up this little story arc with the Earthbound newer X-Men and I guess the other new generations of mutants.
Right, or if not, maybe it'll like at least call to it. I would assume if they go back to the space folk, but yeah, we'll see. X-23, Sync, and Darwin reached X-Men status in number 5, which is wait, hang on.
What's that?
No, yeah, X-Men number 5, which is book is not even out yet.
It's the upcoming issue.
Right.
Right. It's just a tease for the upcoming issue. And I was just going to get to this. This was teased in this article because they're a little bit behind on X-Men.
Right.
They
had 4 and 5 or we already talked about the fact they were going to be late.
Right. They're a little late. They're not months late. They're weeks late. So this tease, this story tease is out there probably because the preview copies went out already.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's interesting to see Sync being alive again.
And Darwin being found.
Yes, exactly. So,
hey, yeah, go figure.
And then seeing X-23 not in the Fallen Angels book. So,
right. Which, they're they flipping around. Marvel's Star Wars reveals Empire Strikes Back's aftermath. We kind of already talked about this. So we don't necessarily need to go back on that. Read Star Wars number 1. This one and the last one, but this one, if you're wanting some aftermath of Empire. That's all we'll say about that.
In a related story, Star Wars Empire Ascended, the book that we were referring to that came out, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Reveals why Darth Vader wanted Death Troopers. These are those much more ominous looking stormtroopers who are dressed all in black.
And we've seen in Mandalorian recently and in other places.
Right.
Star Wars related, but yeah, so that story I read that story, which was like I said earlier, in that the Empire Ascends stuff. That's interesting. It's Yeah. I'm like, that's didn't expect that to go that way. Or maybe I did actually, now that I think about it. But yeah. Let's just say there's more to the name Death Trooper than you know. You will have to read that issue to find out what.
That's right.
Revisiting Spider-Man's Clone Saga on its 25th anniversary. So this article came out on Christmas Eve. But apparently, before One More Day, before Superior Spider-Man, there was the Clone Saga. And this year marks its 25th anniversary of 1994's The Clone Saga. The stories are... So what?
Unreal. It's been 25 years. My goodness.
Yeah, no. Which, you know, that saga has, let's say, reverberated and at various times and places over the years. So, but yeah, if you haven't read it, the story introduced fan favorite Ben Reilly as it was revealed that Ben was the real Peter Parker and our Peter was a clone, which angered fans and led to the arc's controversial legacy. Even though the story polarized many fans, Marvel has used the Clone Saga as an inspiration for many of their other Spider stories, like I said, reverberated, including storylines in Ultimate Spider-Man and then more recently in Spider-Man The Clone Conspiracy, which led to the return of Ben Reilly after decades of absence. And then the rest just goes into the article with the writer Terry Cavanaugh and Tom DeVacco, who was executive editor back then. So, you're so inclined, check that out. If you want to reread Clone Saga, feel free to do that. Next up.
Alrighty. Next up, spoiler alert. Null, the god of symbiotes, just started Marvel's Blackest Night. That's a reference to DC's Blackest Night and some of the similarities between the two between the characters involved in these two separate events across two different companies.
It's as if, as we have said before, they are playing from the same playbook. Weird. So yeah, that's the thing. What happens from here on out, I'm sure we'll find out fairly soon with that. Also, that was from Venom 21, which I didn't read. I believe you did.
Skimmed it.
Yeah. Check out Ms. Marvel's new living costume. Will play a major role, quote unquote, in the Marvel universe. And apparently, according to this article, it says don't call it a symbiote. We already have. Too late.
Huh. He just called out the similarities to the symbiote, knowing that it was tech. So
yeah. So we did due diligence, but still, you gotta see what it is. So apparently, yeah, this thing's gonna get pushed forward in some sort of way. And I guess we'll get to see. Well, it says here, in the months ahead, the strange being will not only play a role in Ms. Marvel's adventures, but in the Marvel universes as a whole. Reads the publisher's announcement. So what? We're going to find out this is some sort of techno symbiote. VCs. Or is it like a bunch of warlocks that have been repurposed? Yeah, whatever happened to whatever happened to warlocks people?
Wait, the was it the Technarch?
I believe so.
That
this is Kree based, so it's probably a little bit more to it than just that. But that's just me.
Right. I mean, exactly. I mean, you're just thinking out loud. I mean, the Phalanx is not that. We've seen them relatively recently.
Yeah, we've seen the Phalanx. Yeah,
that's them.
Yeah,
that's
them. Yeah, we're still and they're still kind of upcoming in whatever's going on in the X-verse. So, but yeah, so this whole Ms. Marvel and the Hunter suit thing, we'll see what's going to happen with that, and what it means to the Marvel universe going forward.
Sure. All right, next up, the first wave of McFarlane Toys' new batch of DC licensed figures have been revealed. I did get a chance to take a look at pretty much all of these as they were posted on social media over the last day or two.
Mm.
And I guess I think they dropped today, and post New Year's Day.
Hmm.
And I definitely have some opinions on some of these toys, and some opinions on the articulation or lack thereof in the mid body. In the chest and what we've traditionally seen in Marvel Legends figures as the ab crunch or lack thereof.
Right.
I don't know if I'm a fan of that. This is definitely
This is like there's a piece of look like there's armor over his like he has another piece of armor over his suit.
right, and it's just it looks like it's just the swivel.
Right.
That's definitely a hindrance, but I definitely see an attention to detail for the rest of the figure and an attention to making it more of a collector's item as opposed to a kid's toy.
Right.
But I'm still not sold yet on this on the figure's
The rib cage.
flexibility exactly around the midsection.
Yeah, that is weird looking. You can,
Kind of
watch.
looking, yeah.
Yeah, if you're watching the video, you can see me scrolling through. Like there's just this is the Superman one, the
It
Batman
doesn't
one.
look nice, but in terms of what you can do with these characters, it seems to be slightly limited, and depending on what the price point is, my understanding is that it's supposed to be on the affordable side. So
Sure.
we're talking about between $20 and $30.
And it probably says here, yeah, just the Batgirl one, there's the Nightwing one, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. And there's also some DC animated series figures in there as well. There's a Batman, Superman, Harley, and Jon Stewart, which is cool.
Yep, there's the Batman one, there's the Superman one, there's the Green Lantern. There we go. There's Jon Stewart there. And he just like Lex Luthor in his batter suit, kinda. But
And
well, I mean, yeah, granted, but I'm kind of back to that articulation thing you were talking about.
right, exactly. I mean, but the thing is, they've never really articulated the animated series figures very well.
Right.
Anything that's based on the animated series is very stiff and very straight up and down. So
And there's even some Arrowverse stuff in here too.
right. I'm mildly disappointed to see that they have chosen not to make these characters as posable as they could have. I like the Hellbat armor, and I like the Batman who laughs. It looks good. I just don't know how posable they're going to be.
Right. Some Batmobiles.
Well, the Batmobile is whatchamacallit? It's a build a figure.
Huh.
For some of these characters. Some of these characters are going to come with pieces of the Batmobile that if you buy them all, you can put the Batmobile together, like a smaller Batmobile.
Right. Weird. But yeah, that's the thing. So let's see if we can find a price real quick before we move on. 6 to 12 inches, ultra posable, according to is what it says. $19.99 to $24.99.
There you go.
For detailed 7-inch figures with an impressive 22 points of articulation, according to this article. So, all right, cool. On the pop front, we have Birds of Prey Funko Pops reveal new Harley Quinn Black Mask looks. Pardon me. So this is from the upcoming Birds of Prey movie. You see the Harley Quinn in roller skates keychain, pencil toppers with various that's various Harleys, I guess. Not sure what that's supposed to be. Well, I'm assuming that's supposed to be Black Canary. Maybe, I don't know who that is supposed to be.
I guess.
Yeah, it says Black Canary, Huntress, and Roman, whoever this is. So basically people from the movie. So yeah, there you go. Cool. Next up,
head on over to the Beat, comicsbeat.com, for a list of the 65 most anticipated graphic novels for winter 2020. So I guess this is stuff that's coming out in the near future.
Mhm.
And when they say winter 2020, I'm thinking like November of 2020.
Well, yeah, January, according to this, January through March is what they're
Gotcha. Right. So it's the near future.
yeah. Which some would call fiscal for the fiscal quarter, but hey, that's
The
you know.
first quarter 2020.
Yes. So there's stuff from Jean Lewin Yang, Gabrielle Bell, Lucy Nisley, and John Pham. There's a nonfiction book about Bruce Lee. There's a excuse me. There's Diana, Princess of the Amazons, looks like a young adult book by Shannon and Dean Hale, and some other stuff from notable stuff.
And what's
Me
cool is-
Simonson is writing a Wonder Woman.
easy. I did see that.
Yeah, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Laura Allred, oh wait, Michael Allred is doing a Bowie book, and Laura Allred is doing the art on it. That's interesting. As in David Bowie.
I would just add that just scrolling through the list, it's cool that this includes several publishers of the of graphic novels. We're obviously not talking about just the big two comic book publishers, but specifically including publishers like Scholastic, who are definitely mainstays in the young adult graphic novel section.
True, and even Viz Media is in the folder with some Persona 5 and Star Wars stuff, and more on the manga line. So yeah, there's all right. So it's Bob Marley book, weird.
There's plenty out there for people to take a look at. So head on over to the comicsbeat.com page and take a look at this list.
Right. Especially I guess that Green Lantern Legacy book, which I know we've been hearing a little bit about. That's coming in a couple of weeks. So cool. Like Agent 7 go check that out on that list. Next up.
How Mile High Comics changed comic book distribution. This is just an article.
Yeah, basically. So I just throw it in here because we think of a lot of people know the name Mile High Comics, and there's a little behind the scenes of how they, of some things they got into, from then to now. So it might be worth a look if you're so inclined. It's actually kind of an interesting article. Next up, Bianca. I apologize, Zunici. I apologize for messing up your name, but is teaching making comics course at Chicago's DePaul University. Apparently,
I was about to say, I wonder if that's pronounced Shunice.
Shunice.
Like, how
that sounds, because the X is yes. It has a that sounds plausible.
Okay.
I don't know because I didn't look it up beforehand. But again, I still apologize for butchering your name because it's not something I tend to want to do. But anyway, so the course is called Making Comics, and the course introduces students to components of graphic narrative, including superhero and alternative comics, comic strips, manga, and graphic novels. Read DePaul's description of the course. Students will learn fundamentals, materials, and techniques, including penciling and inking, digital painting and coloring, and publishing, and create their own graphic narratives. This is cool. I wish they had something like this when we were in school.
Of course.
Also, I believe Steens is also teaching the Christine Steens. I forgot her last name, but I believe she's also teaching a somewhat similar course at a school. So that's cool that this stuff is kind of getting out there like that. So hey, shout out. And I believe that is it. If you want to hit us with the last ad read.
Okay, our last ad read of the night is for Wink, the personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torronté, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Ever try an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your tastes and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now, the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink Wines through CSPN. Do it today.
And as we come to the close of another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles, we'd like to thank each and every one of you all for coming out. We will be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel here on these here. One recording live Thursday nights on around 9:30 p.m. on the Click Nations YouTube channel. Hopefully, if all goes well and everything stays straight and sane, we will also bring you that episode and also possibly the end of the year or deliberations that we would normally have around this time. So look forward to that if we can, if all goes well.
If we can herd all the cats.
Basically, yeah. And get all our ducks in the rows that they would go along for us. But until then, I am Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can also find me at NewsNerd on Twitter. You can also find me at TBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PCN_dirt on Twitter. PopCultureNet on Twitter. PopCultureNetwork.com and his umbrella sites therein. Tim DOGG. Oh my eye. Tim DOGG98 on Twitter. CB Cron on Twitter. The Click Nation on Twitter. That's the KLIQNATION and theclicknation.com. Also, Comic Book Resources where he's over there writing his face off. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal of the Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find this here podcast at your podcast perusal place of choice in the forms of Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple. Why do I keep doing that? Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the Coastal of the Podcast SoundCloud page. Again, we will be back next week. I think, we are going to do a regular show next Thursday and then try to schedule in the end of the year, or who knows, we may surprise you, do vice versa.
Exactly. Stay tuned, folks.
Yeah, just stay tuned to our social media. You'll find out one way or the other which one it is. So until then, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
I love it when a plan comes together.